Welcome, Aurelie, to our We Don't Have Time broadcast at COP28 in hot but beautiful Dubai. Thrilled to have you and to talk to you a little bit about your role as branch manager for the African Climate Reality Project. So, with me is Aurelie Kalenga, and please tell our audience a little bit about the African Climate Reality Project and what about this project, from your perspective, makes you most excited.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor. Yeah, I am the branch manager of the African Climate Reality Project. We are the African branch of Climate Reality Project, which is an organization that was founded by former US Vice President Al Gore. And basically, we do climate education and we also support climate leaders across the world who are contributing solutions towards the climate crisis. And it really is an exciting time for us because we have an opportunity to really amplify the voices of so many people who are doing amazing work on our continent to really advance solutions around the climate crisis and to really raise awareness about how it's impacting their daily lives.
So we are big fans of the Climate Reality Project broadly. I have been trained as a climate reality leader. And your
Amazing.
founder, Ingmar Rentzhog, was one of the original, he was the original cohort trained by Al Gore. So
Ah,
we are very much
so we're
fans.
family.
Yes, we're family. We're fans of what you're doing. And Africa is critical in this, in training the next generation of leaders as well. It's the biggest continent, and we see a lot of mobilization happening on the ground. So, talk to us a little bit about why a chapter for climate reality is so, in Africa specifically, is so important to this bigger picture.
Well, you know, Africa is first and severely the most affected by the climate crisis, yet we've contributed so little
Mm.
to its cause. But we find ourselves really suffering the impacts from the droughts to the heavy rains. It's impacting on food production. It's really destroying infrastructure. It's even leading to losses of life. So it's so important to have people who are aware of this and who can really come up with some adaptation projects, really, so that we can survive some of these impacts of the crisis. And recently, we were in Ghana just last month where we trained, we had a big West Africa training, and we've trained around with 1,600 to 1,000 new climate leaders. And really, we're hoping that with this new this new generation of climate leaders, there's more excitement, there's more innovation, and we can really work together to come up with more innovative ideas.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Mm.
And that's what's going to be, that energy is going to be what really brings us together and solves this climate crisis. And clearly, you're doing something right because the Climate Reality Project just won the Agora Award. So tell us firstly, what are the Agora Awards and what does this mean for you?
Yeah, the Agora Award is an award that recognizes films about climate solutions. And so last year we entered our film African Voices for Africa's Forests. It is set in Cameroon and it follows one of our climate leaders, Ewi Stephanie Lama,
Mm.
and the work that she does with restoration efforts in Limbe and the work she does with women and girls. And it was a wonderful film for us because we really are passionate about storytelling because
Mm.
we, you know, as much as we believe in the science, we know that storytelling is what really inspires hope. It leads to action and it really humanizes the climate crisis. And that was so beautifully captured in the story, gave her and her community the platform to talk about their plight and to talk about the solutions that they've come up with. So it really was an honor to be recognized and to be able to come and receive this award. And we had a few screenings of this film. We're actually going to have another screening at the Cameroonian
Mm.
Pavilion next week on the 6th of December, which is really amazing because the film can be shown in the pavilion of the country where it was screened. So storytelling is really wonderful. And yesterday we were at the Agora Awards and we saw another film being recognized this year at Huacos. Again, just really spotlighting indigenous knowledge and how indigenous solutions should really form part of discussions because that's where the key to some of the issues really lies. So it really is just a wonderful initiative, putting on the map young activists who tell their own stories
Mm.
from their own perspectives with their own solutions.
Yes, no, it's so true. And that's why we have these broadcasts as well, so we can talk about the various initiatives that are underway, especially for me personally as well. Seeing that stories are being told, that's actually entrenched in science. So we're
Exactly.
communicating we are communicating solutions um, through the science of communication.
Exactly.
And so we know it reaches audiences, inspires audiences, motivates behavioral change. Tell us what brought you to this? What made you want to become a storyteller within this bigger picture of the Climate Reality Project?
I think it's because people don't always understand the gravity of the climate crisis when they're bombarded with data and figures and numbers and big
Exactly.
grand words. And when you show them the imagery and you show them a human being explaining how this has impacted them, it resonates a lot more personally. So it's just, a more practical way, I believe, of communicating the issues, communicating the crisis, its impacts, and also presenting some solutions and inspiring hope.
Mm.
Because sometimes when you look at the data, you look at the figures, you hear the speeches on TV, you're really depressed and you think,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, the world is going to end. But when you can see in a movie, in a film, or pictures or poem, there's always that element of hope, and that call to action, and you really get an idea of how you can contribute to the solution. And I think that only storytelling can give you that.
Oh,
Only
you sound
storytelling can
this
humanize
is
it.
I love this because it's really what we say here too, and it really does. Again, there's science behind what you're saying. This is how we need to communicate about the climate crisis, and really be positive about it, be solution oriented about it, humanize it. Everything is really resonating with me, and that's the beauty of what you are supporting through the Climate Reality Project, and you're really supporting the stories of Africans and more broadly the global south, because that's what's missing from the global discourse, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Despite it being such a critical component, it's still disproportionately underrepresented. So talk to us a little bit also about why we need to bring African voices to the global discourse.
Definitely, yeah. African voices, global south voices really need to have a seat at the table. And this is because we're the most affected. We saw the floods in Pakistan. We're seeing the droughts in Zimbabwe. We're seeing a refugee crisis in Sudan. All of that is because of the climate crisis. And these are voices that are not brought into the conversation, yet these are the people who are most severely impacted by the climate crisis. So they definitely should have a seat at the table. Their voices should be heard, should be amplified, and not just, a certain group of people. We need to hear from the young people. We need to hear from women who are bearing the brunt in their communities, but are also coming up with solutions in their communities to keep life going. We need to hear from people who carry indigenous knowledge, because they have been going through this for years. They know, they understand how there's been changes in weather patterns, and they can explain how they've remained resilient over the years. So it's really, these voices really need to be amplified, but also different stakeholders within society, because the solutions really do lie right here in the global south, in Africa.
Right.
We have the solutions to our own problems.
Well, you're obviously such a passionate advocate for these voices, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. And most of the world does look like me and you, so we need to make sure that we're in front of the
Absolutely.
camera telling these stories. So please keep doing what you're doing, and tell me, for our audience, final thoughts on your hopes for the outcomes for COP28.
For COP28, we really do hope that adaptation is placed higher on the agenda, especially for people like us, people in Africa who really are suffering the impacts of climate change. We really do need financing to help us to be able to weather, the storm, and to implement some adaptation projects in communities. And we're really hoping that funding can go to adaptation. We see, a milestone hit with the loss and damage, but really to not forget that adaptation is just as important, and that we need that financing, but also financing that is really transparent and clear, and that doesn't lock us into debt cycles, but is in the form of grants that is truly transparent, human rights centered, and justice centered.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of advocacy for that, and we will be paying close attention to the proceedings to make sure that that is an outcome. So thank you again for taking the time, and
Thank you
enjoy
so
the
much.
rest of your COP.
Thank you for having me.